So you want something affordable, but an A-segment automobile just doesn't seem to float your boat. Besides, you want something in your garage that won't serve as a constant reminder that you settled for less. Now, you can always go with a subcompact sedan, but the decently equipped ones are a bit too expensive. The good news is there is another option. Presenting the Chery Tiggo 2 Pro. Chery out of Philippines is on a roll. Their compelling range of crossovers really has what it takes to appeal to such a vast audience. And that explains why their sales soar month over month. So what do they do with one of their best sellers? Well, they make it even better. The most evident change can be found here at the front, where the Pro gets an extensive makeover. You now get LED DRLs here at the top with projector halogen headlights at the bottom. They even have carbon fiber inserts to give it a bit more character. Now, aside from sporting a more imposing look, it also goes to show that Chery's starting to settle on their brand's identity, as made evident with this huge signature grille. Along the side, you'll see that the Pro is pretty much identical to the regular Chery Tiggo 2, and that really isn't a bad thing because, as you can see, it's pretty well equipped. You get 16-inch two-tone wheels with four-wheel disc brakes, ventilated up front and solid at the back. You also get these functional roof rails, and as you make your way to the back, you'll see that the C-pillar has what looks like glass, but it really isn't. It's more of a design piece, such as the fake air vents on the fenders. Now that may seem kind of tacky, but I think it works to enhance the car's look. Another thing worth pointing out is the fact that the wheels are as close to the corners as possible to really optimize interior space. But let's see how that pays off later on. Now at the back, you get LED taillights and a slanted windshield to really extend this part to give you more trunk space. Opening the trunk reveals 420 liters of capacity, and if that isn't enough, you can fold this 60/40 to give you even more space. And that's pretty roomy for something this compact. So if you're already familiar with the interior of the Chery Tiggo 2, you'll see that the Pro gets a number of significant upgrades. For starters, you get a slightly redesigned dash to make way for a larger infotainment screen. You also get a chunky, leather-wrapped, flat-bottom steering wheel, and the instrument cluster now sports more conventional but better-looking gauges. The most welcome change here, as far as I'm concerned, is the addition of the center armrest, which is also padded, and you also get a small cubby. Now, during my review of the regular Chery Tiggo 2, I mentioned that the armrests on the door cards felt kind of hard, particularly on the edges, but I'm not sure what they did here, if it's additional padding, because it doesn't feel that way anymore. Another notable upgrade is the fact that you now get push-button start, and more than the convenience of not having to use a key to start the ignition, you can now get in and out of the vehicle without having to fumble for the key fob in your pocket. This also has a remote start feature, which means that you can warm the engine up or cool the interior even before you step inside. Now, when you compare this to the other crossovers in Chery's stable, you'll see that this is evidently built to a lower price point. But that doesn't mean that it's dull or boring, because this interior still exudes some character. Yes, there are hard plastics, but you get nice touches such as this stitching that runs across the dash. And though the materials are mainly dark or black, you get a nice mix of different textures to break the monotony. In fact, it exudes enough character to keep you from feeling like you settled for a budget meal. Like I always say, cutting costs by offering fewer features or more basic materials is perfectly acceptable, as long as you don't compromise on good design and build quality. And that's exactly what you get here. Ergonomics is still very good. I like how the center of the dash is slightly angled towards the driver. The seats are also extremely comfortable, and I like how you now get 6-way adjustability for the driver's seat. When it comes to the tech, you get a 9-inch infotainment system that comes standard with Apple CarPlay and QD Link or Mirror Link for Android. You also get a reverse camera, and it comes with a 4-speaker audio system, and even in the absence of tweeters, it surprisingly doesn't sound half bad. Overall, this is a spacious and comfortable cabin for anyone sitting in it, even for the ones sitting at the back. You'll see that there's adequate head and leg room. I also like the fact that you don't sit too upright and there's enough space underneath the front seats for you to kind of stretch out, which means that you can keep your thighs firmly planted. So they seem to have made some notable changes on the exterior and interior, but that's not where it ends. So under the hood of the Chery Tiggo 2 Pro, you still get the same engine, the 1.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. However, this one puts out a bit more power. You get 2 more horsepower and 5 more Newton meters of torque to be exact. So you get a total of 108 horsepower and 140 Newton meters of torque. Now the biggest change from a mechanical standpoint is the fact that this no longer comes with the 4-speed automatic transmission. Instead, you get a CVT with 9 simulated gears. So what does that translate to in terms of power? Well, as far as power delivery is concerned, you do get enough power, particularly at the bottom of the rev range. But when you rev this thing out, it does lose its steam as you get closer to the red line. But for daily driving conditions, it is more than adequate. In fact, it really feels light on its feet. And besides, this thing wasn't made to do drag races or sprints. Now, the biggest concern a lot of people have with small vehicles, or small displacements for that matter, is whether or not it can go up steep inclines. And for the most part, I'd have to say that this is very capable. However, if for whatever reason you have to stop in the middle of a steep incline, that's where you'll feel it kind of struggle a bit, in the sense that you have to be a bit more deliberate with your throttle input for it to regain its momentum. Now, aside from the slightly retuned engine and the all-new transmission, they've also made improvements in terms of NVH suppression, because this suppresses the noise far better than the regular Tiggo 2. The only thing that really creeps in as far as noise is concerned is the noise of the engine because of the CVT drone. But it really isn't that bothersome, and when you're using this on a daily drive, it is pretty quiet. Now, as far as steering is concerned, this comes with a hydraulic power assisted system. And for me, that's a non-issue. Yes, it is slightly heavier than something with an EPS, but for me, I like it that way. I like the fact that it requires a bit more engagement to drive, and you can always tell where your wheels are pointing. But I'd have to say that the Chery Tiggo 2 Pro's greatest highlight is just how comfortable it is. The suspension is extremely compliant, and though you do get a torsion beam suspension at the back, the ride is never jarring, and there's hardly any flexing. Although there is a bit of body roll when you take a corner at high speed, but again, as a daily driver, this is exactly how you want it. It is extremely comfortable. And that goes to show that being on a tight budget doesn't mean that you have to get behind the wheel of something that feels like a chore to drive. I'd be happy to drive this for hours. The Chery Tiggo 2 Pro can be yours for 818,000 pesos, and that's pretty good value considering it's such a small jump compared to the regular Chery Tiggo 2's price, considering everything you get with this. And the best part is you're backed up with Chery's unbeatable Premium Preserve program, which gives you a 10-year warranty on the engine. You also get a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, aside from 3 years of free PMS and roadside assistance. So it goes to show that you can be on a budget without having to compromise space, practicality, character, and most importantly, peace of mind. Thanks for watching.